just a little synopsis of why we want to do this in this month and why we're doing it. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, as everybody knows in the UK, and we believe it's important as a community of startups and founders to encourage each other to think and speak about how we truly feel, and ultimately support each other through the different journeys and struggles that we face throughout life. And we're grateful enough to have a really strong community of founders within our own, within DreamFactory, who work in mental health, contribute to mental health, and are advocates for it. So yeah, so we're very grateful. Tonight we have Sophia from Kanjo Health, Raj from MindHug, and Tracy from The Proud Company, and they're all going to talk about their experience and also their business and startups. We'll get started by asking each of our panelists to tell us a little bit about their startups and what their personal motivation was for starting the business. And Tracy, we'll start with you.
Hello. So I founded The Proud Company 3.5 years ago now, ex-corporate for 18 years. And I started The Proud Company to help execs, founders, really get to the bottom of why we think, feel, and act the way we do sometimes, why we suffer with fear, anxiety, why we resist everything and are very scared to look inside what's going on in here and here. I suppose the other day I said to someone, I'm like a colonic irrigation for your mind and body. I block everything. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and life coach, and also the host of The Pause Effect, which is a retreat in the UK. It's application only. We work with 10 people at a time. And if you'd like to know more about that, then it's a very personal retreat. So I'll be happy to talk to you a bit about that later. But yeah, I help people with their ecosystem so they can be creative geniuses, because we've all got it. But if we don't look after everything that goes on here, we can't act out our genius. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy. Sophia, do you want to?
I'm sorry, I have slightly lost my voice today. The irony of being burnout when you're about to go give a talk on founding mental health. I have a slightly different reason for starting Kanjo, which is the first predictive mental health company. We basically refer, monitor, and diagnose children and parents through digital biomarkers in gaming. So how we interact with your consumer electronic device. I had an eating disorder when I was 15, 16. I lost 40% of my body weight, and very quickly realised that my school did absolutely nothing. I went to a private school in North London, and all they did was tell me that I couldn't sit my exams. So when I was 16, I launched what's now considered to be one of the biggest mental health campaigns ever in the UK to get mental health on the national curriculum. And honestly, no idea why the fuck anyone trusted me. I was a 17-year-old who had just got Instagram. I had no idea what I was doing. But I thought I had solved this crisis of adolescent mental health, so I completely left it. By the time I hit 19, joined a sorority in the US, and during COVID, kind of had built one tech company in the NLP space and was like, I really haven't solved the crisis. Education clearly is highly bureaucratic. It's not getting to the kids that need it. And now that I have this consumer tech background, why not actually combine them and look at preventative mental health? We have such high degree of personalization in mental health when it's too late, right? Digital therapeutics, telehealth, and nothing before the problem starts. And I look back at myself at 16. I didn't wake up at 16 and go, today I'm not going to eat, right? But at 8, 9, 10, I was showing signs of perfectionism, compulsion, all these things that realistically, if my parents or a caretaker had known more about, probably could have been prevented. So a slightly more personal, a very personal reason, I guess, to why starting my company.
Yeah, but still an equally powerful company. And I think it's so important that we target kids early on who are struggling with mental health, because it's a much more common thing these days, and it's a brilliant business. Raj?
Yeah, so my name is Raj. I run a startup called MindHug. We started about 3 years ago, towards the end of 2019, just before lockdown. But as anyone will tell you, when a startup legally starts and when it really starts are two very, very different things. So I, like Tracy, come from the corporate world. So was an LSE economist, and just like every LSE economist, decided financial services was what I was going to do. Went and did my time, sold my soul to the devil, as they say. Was in insurance, and then I was a central banker and regulator. And look, the job was fine, but along the way, I had my own mental health breakdown, and literally came out of nowhere. It was on a night out, and I started acting very erratically, and it was a psychotic episode, and changed my whole perspective on life. Took few years to come out. I was one of the lucky ones who did come out the other end. Not everyone does. When I did come out the other end, I decided I just wanted to do something different with my life. And I didn't really have a plan. I just wanted to do something different. I said I'll take a career break. Took a career break. My company was very, very supportive, so no qualms over there. And technically, I'm still on a 7-year career break, but that's a different story. So took a career break. Went and did a master's at UCL in entrepreneurship. Always been interested in entrepreneurship, but typical Indian family of lawyers, academics, doctors, and no one really had an entrepreneurial bone in their body, and I wanted to learn the ropes. So I did that. Learned the ropes. Did my academic dissertation on mental health. Really identified some of the problems people were facing in the mental health space. And what MindHug today is, we don't call ourselves a technology company. We call ourselves a mental health innovation company, and we want to innovate in the mental health space. It could be therapeutic, it could be pharmaceutical, it could be technological. We believe one size does not fit all when it comes to mental health. So the most common therapies, CBT or talk therapy and medication, great when they work, but they also fail so many people. In fact, they fail 2/3 of people. So we need to recognize that. And that's because people are different. People process information differently. People's causes are different. The psychological, social, biological reasons are very, very different. So we have a whole range of therapies, everything from traditional CBT and positive psychology to art therapy and music therapy, to enable people to actually process information the way they want to process it. We offer it through workshops and events with a corporate wellbeing service, but we also have an app that's going through testing right now, where we have a lot of digital content, the ability to connect with a therapist if you want to, but also have a hybrid approach where you can also combine shorter, less frequent therapy sessions with artificial intelligence and digital content, because we need to make it a lot more scalable, accessible, and affordable, and that's one way of doing it. But like I said, we're a mental health innovation company. We're looking at all things, in the mental health space right now. We're looking at research as left field as AI, VR, virtual reality-based therapy, psychedelic therapy. The world's our oyster. We need to innovate, because mental health hasn't been innovated in for probably millennia now.
Thank you, Raj. Very powerful. And corporate companies especially, it's so dated when it comes to mental health, and it's really important to innovate it so that it can be easily accessed by the majority. We've obviously got a room full of founders, startups. Burnout's a natural thing, on the grind, hustle culture, it's so normalized, and we do just work a lot. How do you think as a founder, this is a question to everyone, but how do you guys think as a founder you can juggle that work-life balance, and how can you, I guess, take care and control of your mental health in the right way? Sophia?
Yeah, you don't. I think the expectation that you can completely have complete balance in work and life doesn't work. I think you can see how the scale tilts. Sometimes I will drink too much on a night out, and I'll be okay, my work is going to be compromised tomorrow. And there'll be weeks where I really do struggle to see as many people as I want. I think if you have this expectation of having this cushy work-life balance, don't go into this job. Yeah. And that's really sad. And you can work away. I'm very compulsive, so I make time to work out twice a day, every day. But that comes at the detriment of, not being able to walk my dogs when I want because I have to work late, or, our new CTO works in LA. It's you make a compromise doing this because you're doing something you love. And I also think partially the lines are very blurry, right? So is this work? Is this work for me? Am I allowed to talk about my Hinge dates yesterday? I don't know. Right, and I'll get to that later, but I love Hinge.
At the edge of my seat.
No, but the thing is, right, it's when in this job, you don't know if you're talking to a friend or a potential investor. The lines are so blurry. And I think it's like learning how to navigate that rather than expecting this like amazing work-life balance where you like get on your laptop for like 1 hour in Santorini. Like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I agree. I think there's work-life integration. I think, as you said, you work out twice a day. There's things that I'll do. You know, I'll be up at 5:30. I'll do a workout, and I'll do some mental fitness. And that's integrated into every day and everything that I do. I know in my nervous system if I need to pause. Before, I never listened to that. And if we can do anything, listen to your body, because it is trying to tell you just to pause for a moment. And you're all creatives, right? I don't know how many of you in this room are going to change the world with what you're doing. But if you do not fucking pause when your body is telling you to, you will break and nothing's going to happen. So yes, is there a balance? No. But can you integrate things? Absolutely. And just be mindful of that, you know when to stop and stop. You are more important than everything else going on around. So just stop when you need to. And I think, integration, not a lot of balance.
Yeah, I mean, they've said a lot, and I agree with a lot of it. Integration is critical. So I do sometimes feel like a fraud because I go to corporates and I say, you've got to talk about work-life balance, and I don't live it. There is a subtlety to it because I tend not to use the word busy because, as Sophia said, where's the distinction between work and life is very different in a startup world than it is in the corporate world, for instance, where you're just doing a job. I now don't like to use the word busy, for instance, because for me, this is part of life. I mean, I say work is a way society has organized itself. I know it's philosophical, but work is a way society has organized itself. And so I don't like to use the word busy because I've chosen a certain organizational structure, which is the startup structure, and I'm living it. And just like I would choose a Netflix movie, for instance, and I will never say I'm busy watching Netflix. Okay, so to that extent, it's difficult to have that distinction because that's a life I've chosen. But integration is critical because your mental health, even if there's no distinction, is important irrespective of whether you're at work or whether you're just have a personal life or a hinge date, for instance. It's very, very important, and integration is critical. Like, for instance, I will walk now wherever I want to, walk along the river, just because it just gives me that sanctity, which I wouldn't otherwise have got if I decided I'll work till the nth moment and then catch the tube here. So I'm going to walk back home from here, for instance, because it's just integration. It allows me to think. I can get some thinking done. I can also get my exercise done. So it's good. So there are a few subtleties that I'd kind of bring in here, but all very valid points. But that's kind of my view.
In your experience, what are the best ways you have found that you can help you and your business?
How can I help me? By knowing me and by being very self-aware of what's going on in my mind, in my body, what it's telling me, being emotionally aware and connected, trusting my intuition. They always say, don't make an emotional decision in corporate. We make the best decisions with our emotions. An impulsive decision, or I would potentially say deflection, would be if something had happened that I didn't like, I would become a victim to that and say, pop open a bottle of red and neck it pretty quickly. Than sitting with it and say, what is that telling me? What is that emotion, that fear? Is it trying to stop me and protect me from moving forward? Or is it saying, sit with it? And actually what it's saying is fucking go for it. Because on the other side of that fear is something really great. Yeah. But you've got to move through it. Don't deflect.
And you've worked like in your startup and in your business, you've worked with a lot of different leaders and founders.
Leaders, people in sport, founders, all of the above.
Is there a connector between all of them, like something that kind of strings them all together that you've noticed?
Yeah, that they feel like they're not enough.
And I guess that's quite similar to what like children experience at early stage as well within mental health. Like maybe they're absorbing different things, like you mentioned earlier, things from their parents that they didn't realize, and it might be like a lack of guidance from them, and they might feel a bit like they're not enough to fit in with their family in a way.
Yeah, I think I always say, like, you know, children learn by osmosis, so do we, right? So a child is made up of, you know, their 3 closest friends at school, their teacher, their parents, right? And in the same way, like, that's the way we look at kids now. It's the same way I hope I lead, is that I know that hi Jackie, like, if I lead in a certain way, that my team will also respond in a certain way, right? And it's the same way with a child and a parent. So I do not want my team to be afraid to tell me they're having a shit day. Or they want to finish at 6. And I asked Jackie if I could give an example of me and her talking about something this week. I'm not allowed. But, you know, the example is like, I'd say I'm like relatively stable, but I have to say that because I'm on stage. But like, you know, recently a good example would be like last week, a guy that I really liked randomly ghosted me because he definitely has a girlfriend. And it really upset me when I went into work, right? And I was like, I am also a human. Right. And I think that's like a really important thing to say. So, you know, me and Jackie were on a call and I was like, oh my God, can you believe this guy ghosted me and like has this girlfriend? And we now have this thing where, you know, 10 minutes before every call, we just offload. Right. And it's allowed me to, you know, everyone in our team will now come in and be like, I'm having a shit day. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I think it's like the same way, you know, kids learn from their parents. I believe that like we all learn from each other, and like the way we behave is how we want everyone else to behave.
And you kind of never stop really learning in a childlike way anyway. And that's kind of something that I think you should probably teach yourselves when you're older. Like, we should just be eager to learn, and we shouldn't let the corporate, like, dull us out in that sense. Is that, like, from like Mindhug and the corporates that you've worked with, have you found that a lot of people haven't addressed their childhood trauma?
I have a unverified statistic, completely unverified, but I go as far as saying we all have trauma. 95% of the world's issues are trauma related. What's going on in Russia, Ukraine, Putin's trauma. It's all trauma related. We have to deal with it, and trauma doesn't have to be, and we were just discussing this earlier, as pronounced as seeing someone die in front of you, for instance. It could be as a child really wanting that last scoop of chocolate ice cream, but someone taking it, for instance. That can have repercussions on you as a child, and that can manifest itself in so many ways you won't even know it until later down in life. There is also one other subtlety, and I keep bringing on subtleties, but there is one other subtlety that what we perceive as good and bad in the corporate world, in our personal life, these are things that have been taught to us ever since we were kids. We've been conditioned by the environment, by our parents, by our 3 best friends, our teachers, and we put these judgments on things that we do, things that people do, and then we react to it. But the fact of the matter is, these are just conditioned responses. And we're trying to, as a mental health organization, show people that a lot of the responses and a lot of the emotional repercussions that they have to things are because they've been taught to behave in that particular way. So to answer your question, sorry, I've gone a little on a tangent. Yes, trauma is huge. I'm just saying that everyone's got trauma, but the truth is I think everyone does have trauma. And I'm sure everyone in the corporate world has trauma as well. But there's all these other subtleties as well involved as well.
We think it's very important to encourage mental health, talking about mental health at work, and encouraging your employees and your friends and your colleagues to feel comfortable to voice how they feel. How do you guys within your business and your startup encourage that kind of open and free space to talk and free space to be, and what's kind of something that's like a non-negotiable for you when it comes to that?
We only have one company value, I know everyone says like the first rule of startups is to like come up with 5 and all that stuff, but we only have 1 because I was lazy. But ours is like awkward transparency. And I think that has been like, I don't know if Jackie, you agree, maybe I'm slightly too transparent. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And you know, sometimes I think that makes me a weak leader. And like, sometimes I leave conversations with my team and I'm like, I've overdone it. I shouldn't have told them that. But I think it allows people to see that like I am fallible, and it allows me to see that I'm fallible, right? Like, I think the first company I did, I built a company when I was 19. I put on this like grand allure that I was like this like hot shit tech startup founder. I had no idea what I was doing. And people saw through it, right? And like, I don't think I was a good boss. I think I kind of like put myself on a pedestal. And realistically, I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm bad at. And that's why you bring on people who are better than you. But if I can't say when I like fuck up, like how will Jackie ever feel comfortable to come with me for like an issue being like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I think like the biggest thing is like accepting you're going to make mistakes, not punishing people when they make mistakes, and like growing from them. I hate that term because like every time I make a mistake, I'm definitely not growing from it. Like everyone says you grow from mistakes, you don't, you fuck up and you lie in bed and you're really sad.
We live and we don't learn.
Yeah, but you have to tell everyone else they're allowed to make mistakes, right? But I think that is like the big thing. It's, this is me, like, and allow everybody else to be themselves.
Yeah. I think you made a good point about that earlier, Tracy. Like everyone is this, we're all the same, like we're all just people, we're all just trying the same way as everybody else, and like we should kind of accept each other and accept ourselves to be, you know, a bit of a shithead sometimes, and accept that everyone else will be a bit of a shithead sometimes. Raj, how can your workplace help like other workplaces?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I mean, the first thing is we always say it's got to be a culture-driven approach, right? It's not going to be a reactive approach or even a proactive. It really has to be a ground-up, culture-driven approach. And Deloitte did a study on this a while back, and they said that reactive measures, which is solving the problem once someone's had the breakdown or someone's had depression, anxiety, has a return of 3:1. So it's still got a positive return, 3:1. But if you build it from the culture ground up, where people are talking about it, there's proactive measures, there's support, the return on investment for every pound you spend is 6:1. So it doubled the return on investment. So we always say you got to build a culture of well-being, and that means your manager has to be talking to you about your mental health. People have to be talking to you about mental health. Colleagues should be comfortable. I know people talk about COVID and the impact it's had on mental health, but I this is anecdotal, but I find that people are much more open to say, oh, my friend's got a mental health issue, but they're still not, there to say that I'm seeing a therapist or I've got a mental health issue. And I think that needs to change. So people have to be able to talk about it a lot more. Equally, people need to recognize, and organizations need to recognize that people are different, have different well-being needs. So the neurodivergent individuals, for instance, need more flexibility and like to work from home, whereas someone who is more about a people person might want to actually come into work. So you need to be able to cater for both sets of these individuals. I have an example of someone who is on the autistic spectrum, who I deal with on a professional basis, and when I have a video call with him, he's absolutely amazing. I mean, the smartest person I've ever met, and the kind of insights he comes up with it's unbelievable. But you meet him face to face, he says he doesn't feel comfortable. So just catering for the needs of that individual from a well-being perspective is very, very important. So I would say build a culture, treat individuals differently, but also enable people to bring their whole self to work. That's the final bit. Sorry, I'm going to stop there, which is bring their whole self to work, because work is just an extension of the social ecosystem we're part of. And that's why, I can go on for days about why I think the cancel culture is absolutely rubbish, etc., because it's stopping people from making mistakes and being themselves sometimes. And we all make mistakes, and we just need to recognize that and move on from there.
I agree. That's good. Cancel culture sucks. How, as a founder, do you balance your personal and professional identity? Because you seem like you say, you wear your heart on your sleeve. Is there a balance between it?
This actually causes me like a lot of anxiety. Not being on stage. I meant like this kind of
This
dichotomy,
question.
right? Yeah, no, you're fine. It's like I am, and I think you guys can probably tell, or you who know me, I am probably the loudest, most smiley person you will ever meet. Like, if I go into a room, I will like go and hug everyone. Like, I just jumped on Lena for absolutely no reason. Right? It's like when I did the Myers-Briggs test, it came back as like 98% extrovert, and I did it again because like I was confused why the other 2% wasn't there. It was very weird. Right? But then like sometimes I believe that like, I bring so much of this extroversion in myself to things that, does it make me less investable? Right? Does it make me more investable? And I think the fact that I'm tying this idea of am I investable and like into a conversation about me as a person, and then like bringing the conversation of am I likable into work shows that I haven't really got that balance right. It's like, when I'm hanging out with my friends, or if I'm on sorry, I keep bringing up dates, but I'm in a single phase. But like if I'm on a date or I'm with my friends, they kind of often go like, do you only talk about work? Right? And it's like, I have it become work. And then, when I'm at work, it kind of feels like the opportunity that I can talk about myself, right? So suddenly I'm telling, you guys about my dates. Like I haven't understood where that balance lies, because like we are all kind of selling ourselves, right? And I think that's what's really, really tough. It's like, early stage companies, like you're buying into the founder, right? So it's like, I think I am a massive show off, and I really struggle with that. I don't want to be. I always felt like, I used to run for Great Britain and blah, blah, blah. I did. But, it's like that really tough balance of being like, can I actually make a distinction of the person I am outside of work? I haven't got that, right? And I actually don't know how you do it, because you are work. So my answer is no. I have no idea yet. And I would lie if I saying I don't know if any of us have an idea yet.
I guess like that's a journey that we're all kind of taking. Even I'm not a founder, but I still have that struggle. I think, it can be said for everyone. Tracy, is there like a way that you balance?
No, I'm always a therapist.
Every time I talk to you on shoots and it's on sets, I'm just like, oh my God, it feels like 100 times better.
Yeah, no, I haven't found it yet. No. For me, even as a mother, as a friend, and it's my job as well. So that's what I do. I always try to get to the bottom of a potential issue or problem that's presenting itself, whether it's my own or someone else's.
But I guess that's what makes you so good at your job, though. So.
Yeah, maybe, but sometimes I don't like psychoanalyzing people all the time. I just want some time out.
Yeah. Someone comes up to you on the bus and you're like, find out everything about them, and they're just like, I just want to say hi.
And even if, and I have this thing of going up to people, like I said to you earlier, I could see someone getting really stressed if the train's delayed and they're like shouting down their phone, like, get out, I'm not going to be home for dinner. And they take all that home. It's like, I can't help but go over and just say, breathe for a second. Let's reframe how we're thinking about this. Let's take it as an opportunity just to have some free time.
It's so important, because that person who's screaming on the phone because he can't get home for dinner then translates those emotions to their children.
Yes.
And then it's this, and they come from the corporate struggle. Like, wow, this is really, you guys are all kind of
Smashing it.
Yeah, joining up the dots here. But yeah, like it is just an ongoing process, and it's a cycle that everyone goes through. Like, and it is important to recognize yourself and those emotions and how you are during the day and what triggers you, so that you can.
Definitely. Yesterday I took myself to the middle of nowhere, my favourite space in the world, and I was there. What I thought was 2 hours was about 7.
No way.
Yeah, like, because I needed to. Like, I had that feeling. I take in, doing therapy with a lot of people, hypnotherapy, I go back to past traumas with them. So when you're holding that space and energy for people, that's a lot on you, you know, and you have to have a way of release. The same as we do as founders with anything that we do, we have to take that time. And do you know what? Before, when I was in corporate, I couldn't even have an hour. But I've now recognised actually as a founder, I can do that. At first, for the first 2 years, I didn't. But now I'm like, actually, if this is going to be successful, I need to do that. I have to do that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just that was my thing yesterday with some nice plants. Brilliant. Microdose now and then. No wonder I was there for 7 hours. That was really good.
Good. Okay. I need to find out where that place is.
I'll take you one day.
Oh, yay. Cool. So last question, because I think we need to wrap up. Yeah, 5 minutes. Oh my God. For each of you, what's the best piece of advice you can give to our founders, to our lovely audience? Raj, you want to go?
Yeah. I've been asked this so many times, and it sounds really touchy-feely, but it's true. Everything is about people. Every single thing is about people. Whether it's investors, whether it's employees, whether it's customers, whether it's anyone, it's people at the end of the day. You can have a balance sheet, but if you can't convince someone about investing in that business, or you can have the strongest balance sheet, but your employees aren't happy, you're not going to be a successful business. So always treat everything as a people-first initiative, whether it's investment, whether it's products, whether it's anything, people first.
So I was in therapy last week with Linda, great Linda, who I've been with for 10 years. And like, I'm going to be honest, I think like the last 2 weeks of work has been like utter shit for me. Me and my co-founder have split ways amicably. We've pivoted. I've been to the Middle East. Like I've pretty much been living in Abu Dhabi. Like it's been a mess. And you know, like I went into like a little therapy room. It's super nice and cozy and warm. And I was like really stressing out, being like, what happens if this pivot doesn't go well? What happens if like I don't find a new co-founder? Like, what if? And she was like, yeah, what if you fail? She was like, what happens? And I was like, and it's a great question. And then I was like, yeah, like the whole world, I couldn't actually come up with a logical answer of like the world blowing up if it failed. Right. And I was like, yeah, but you know, like I won't be able to pay Jackie anymore, or I won't be able to do this, and I won't be able to like get invited to VC dinners anymore. Like I was coming up with everything very dramatically. And then she was like, yeah, but think about it. If it goes wrong, you have helped a lot of children, you work with government entities, you're 25. Right. She was like, what else would you want to do? And I was like, maybe I'd want to try professional running again. Or, you know, maybe I would want to try and be a VC or like a TV presenter.
I think you could smash that.
I'd love it. I've always dreamt of presenting Love Island. The irony of like the most like damaging mental like TV show for kids and me being like, I think I'd be great. But like, I think that's a big thing is like we often make every decision into a catastrophe of like the what if. The fact that we've started this is like a success enough. Yeah. And that's why like I often have to remind myself is like, if I fail, I still have my family, I still have my friends, I've still built something special. So kind of going back to the people thing, it's like the world still exists if something goes wrong, even if the whole thing blows up.
So I would say the best advice is if you are, as founders, we can have these blocks, right? Lack of self-esteem, the not enough, insomnia, heightened states of anxiety that cause all loads of shit like IBS and God knows what else. Get it sorted. Like, don't be scared to go there. Go and get it sorted, get it unblocked, because you need everything to flow nicely and look after you, but also find someone that can sit in your shit with you. You know, really sit with you and be there for you. Don't let your ego stop you from expressing how you feel and talking, because it fucking will. You'll be like, don't do it. You can't show weakness. You can't do that. You absolutely can. And the minute you do it, freedom. I know what it was like when I first started my first startup. And I felt like I was just carrying baggage consistently, getting more and more weighed down. Like, don't do that. Become extremely self-aware. Like, really get to know yourself, your feelings, your triggers, and deal with them as quickly as possible, because then you thrive. And that's a totally different game. So that's my thing, yeah.
Thank you. Huge thank you to our panelists. They've done an incredible job and, again, building incredible businesses. So thank you guys so much.